Talent. I'm always ready. That is my professionalism. That is what I do around here. God, you don't see me making a big deal out of all this. We'll take it again.
Are you?
Burning one.
We're recording.
Welcome to Breakfast with BS with Vince and Friends. I am, of course, your host, Vince. Today we got producer Virgil.
Hi.
And Sergio Top Down Aloysius Cream Corn Sanchez.
Oh.
And
I'm Cyberwolf.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not one of the 64 different names that I have.
I can't keep track of all his different nicknames that people give him. By people, I mean me. and we got Jeremy Mark 1.
Hey.
We are here, of course, in Santa Fe, in beautiful Mesa, California, the Jewel of the Hills. And fellas, it is always a pleasure.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, we are here with a serious topic today. And that topic is wrestling. Also known as the grand sport. And Jeremy here has been to a friend of Virgil for 275 years. We don't really know.
Yeah, sounds right.
They won't let me cut off one of their legs to count the rings, so I'm not going to try. But Jeremy's been to
Went to All In.
All In,
Been
and
to the New Japan.
I have basically done like most every New Japan show that's been in the Western United States, save for the most recent Super J Cup tour. I didn't get to any of those, but like almost any of the other West Coast shows that have happened in the past, and definitely in 2018 and 19, I've been to most all of them. I went to the G1 special in San Francisco and Strong Style Evolved and Fighting Spirit Unleashed, whatever the one was that was at the end of last year, the one that was not that great. But anyway, so and then I flew to Chicago for All In. I will do many more of those shows. Some people hit their midlife crisis and they start buying Ferraris and like.
Well, I want your midlife crisis.
Man, we can't afford this here.
And my midlife crisis, I'm just traveling around.
when I hit my
enjoying
midlife
wrestling.
crisis, all I'm going to be able to afford is a taco. So from Taco Bell.
Okay, so
It's not even quality.
Sad time.
so can we get some background on your interest in wrestling, like from the beginning, and like what got you into it, and then if there was a break, if any, and then you came back to it.
Sure.
And what was it that brought you back?
So, I loved the old school WWF as a kid, and like just basically anything. WWF was the first wrestling I remember seeing on TV.
That's a lot of people, folks. Yeah.
I remember seeing. I remember
Brutus.
Beefcake was my favorite. Like the first time when I first started watching wrestling, he was just Brutus Beefcake. He hadn't become the Barber yet, and like the first time he came out as the Barber, I was just like. He had that crazy like spike mullet going on, and like, and the zebra print tights that were like
the holes cut
ripped
out,
and
but
the
they were, like,
fishnet
mesh.
stuff. Yeah. And like I thought he looked so cool in the giant like lawn shears.
I dressed as him. In
So did I.
So
In fifth grade at Castle Park Elementary, actually, we had like a Halloween. We used to have these talent show things at Castle Park Elementary where we would lip sync or whatever, and like I totally had the pile driver album with all the like WWF songs on it. It had like Coco Beware and all this other Jimmy Hart and all this stuff, and I like lip synced to one of those songs and came out like dressed like Brutus with the like. Found a plastic like pair of garden shears and wrapped them in tape like candy cane style. It was awesome. So I loved old WWF, like old territory stuff, WCW. I lapsed, and I'm sure this is something you guys probably hear a lot. I kind of lapsed as a wrestling fan when
Everything went out of business.
and the Fed went to their like rated PG model, like, and I couldn't take it seriously after the Attitude Era ended, and like all of a sudden your ace is a guy who wears jorts and looks like Gomer Pyle and thinks he's a white rapper, and I was never a Cena guy. Like I know he's one of the best talkers ever, but like as in ring, I've always felt like dude has like 5 or 6 moves.
The 5 moves of doom.
Yeah, and like doesn't really. I never. Like, unless he was in there with other talent that was great.
Pumping him up.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I feel like he was a guy who couldn't put on a decent match against anybody that wasn't elite level. So, I just never... And hearing people compare Tanahashi to him now just makes me cringe. Tanahashi's so much better.
That makes me
much
angry.
better. Yeah, it does. It does. But anyway, so that was sort of like it for me. I sort of got introduced... to the world of like Japanese pro wrestling, and so Tanahashi was one of the first guys that like I remember like the Three Musketeers. I wasn't super familiar with Japanese wrestling like during the Inoki era. I sort of came on later than that when they were trying to recover post Inoki, and Tanahashi was like the savior that made that happen. Basically carried that
so
company
after
on his shoulder.
Keiji Muto left. And
Yeah.
That's when they tried doing shoot style more.
And Inoki was trying to make them almost like a shoot style promotion. It was almost like Pancrase or something like that, and like it didn't really work out so well. And luckily they had a young lion named Hiroshi Tanahashi who was so good they didn't even send him on excursion.
Well, I think about a lot of that, they forgot one major thing of pro wrestling at that point: showmanship.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they got lost in the look how tough I am. But you know that only works when you got the guy to freaking sell and show and make you feel the emotion of the match.
Absolutely.
And Tanahashi is beautiful at that. When he
really
says "I love you," you feel that he loves you.
And I think Tanahashi's probably one of the greatest storytellers ever. You know what I mean? Like he's amazing.
Hair is immaculate.
Perfect. I know.
It is feathered and glorious.
If you have hair envy like me,
I totally do. Like when that man does a sling blade, it is poetry in motion because of his hair just flowing. I think Super 7 announced that they're coming out with New Japan figures this week.
Yep.
And I was telling Virgil, I was like, my only wish was, since they have a couple Tanahashi heads, they perfectly captured his sling blade.
So,
just so I can have that flowing motion.
As a little aside to that, those are really, really cool, but how do they not give you the most popular guy in the company?
well,
Like, why would they not make a Naito figure? Like, the LIJ merch is the best-selling New Japan faction merch, like, worldwide. Naito is the most over guy in that company.
I think it's a slow build too, because they want to see
I think
how
they want to test the market first.
series, because it's
And
American.
even then, that might be a little bit of... might be a little more complicated with American sales because of, you know, LIJ technically being from CMLL, and seeing CMLL has that working relationship with New Japan, that might be a little something else.
New Japan owns Los Ingobernables de Japón, the trademark.
All right.
So
Okay.
that's No worries. I'm not saying that to be. I'm not saying that to like denigrate what you're saying. I actually researched that recently. So for a conversation I had with somebody else actually. So, but at any rate, so that sort of got me back interested in wrestling. I didn't get hardcore into it probably until I would say that helped a little bit. I was never like a huge Bullet Club guy. Like I of course by in 2019 now Bullet Club is NWO 2000 basically. Like it's so played out.
It ran its course.
It's been that way for a while. Like I actually recently watched the Invasion Attack 2016 show from start to finish, and like mostly because I wanted to just see the whole show in context and see Naito win the belt and like just sort of like haven't watched this one in a while, but Bullet Club was pretty played out in 2016 in January when that show happened. But I think there was some buzz around New Japan and Ring of Honor too with the Elite and stuff that got a lot of people drawn back in. And I love all the Elite guys, but I wouldn't say that they're like my favorite in all of wrestling. But they definitely like got my eyes back on it and got me reinvested in. And I was like, this is like the wrestling I loved growing up, and then some.
The Elite made it fun.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
So
Bullet Club brought back the cool heel,
Yes. Okay. I agree.
and then the Elite made it fun. And being the Elite like made you feel like you were a part of that.
and it's such a unique, one of a kind thing. Like that's not something that's been that's happened in the wrestling business before. If you think about everybody those guys got over, like. They got SoCal Uncensored were indie guys. Those guys are huge now. They got those guys over huge. It's like everything they touch turns to gold pretty much, except for the Dark Order. Is the only thing they haven't been able to get over so far. But
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I really appreciate Kazarian and Daniels for naming their tag team SoCal Uncensored because, as Vince knows, SoCal Uncensored is this message board that all the indie guys go to, and we know the guy who runs it, and it's kind of like that is.
You never spelled my name right, but
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's how much we love. The wrestlers who were just traveling around, doing their thing because they love wrestling. And I actually am very grateful that they named their team that because it's awesome. And I was watching Scorpio Sky when he still had his mask on, so it's just.
I loved Scorpio Sky's mask.
Yeah.
It was a great mask. His freaking battles with Scott Lost were awesome.
he's talented. He's the kind of guy you could make a single star out of easily.
Well, I think that was the point of him filling in for Daniels a couple weeks ago on AEW, was to build Sky.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. So, I'm kind of, I don't know, we'll talk about the episodes and stuff, I guess, when we talk more about AEW. About that booking decision last week was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at now as a wrestling fan. Like I'm reinvested. I lost, like a lot of other fans, I lost interest after the Attitude Era, and WWE just got boring to me.
I think that's
Felt like a kid show, and like it didn't feel like the pro wrestling I loved
Well, it
anymore.
also made you feel like an idiot.
Right.
I mean, just the writing and just like the conclusions that came to certain feuds and stuff. Like, okay, I mean, and they're still doing it, and that's all because of one dude.
There's no
'cause of
consequence
this.
anymore,
Yeah, exactly.
It used to be, when I remember growing up,
Okay,
it was like,
you lose
man,
the belt, but I'm gonna get a challenge for it next on Monday, and
exactly.
then I'm gonna win it back
Yeah.
because of shenanigans. And then
immediately, right?
Yeah.
Like the next match is like the bad, there's no build up to anything, everything's a title match.
For me, I'm not a fan of the sports entertainment model, as they call it. Like, I'm not a big fan. Like, I want to see wrestling, right? I love that new NWA Power that's on YouTube. That's old school
these guys have been
territory
hyping it
style
up,
wrestling. Like, that's good
So
stuff.
did you watch it after I suggested it to you?
I've seen every episode
good.
so far.
Yeah,
It's really, really cool. Despite the fact that I have some, I'm not really the biggest Cornette fan. Like, I get what he is to the business, but like, somebody should put a filter on that guy.
Yes.
Anyway, the wrestling's phenomenal. Like, I've really, really enjoyed that show. So there's that. Like, that's like the wrestling I grew up with, an old WWF. And then there's the modern sports entertainment model that Vince is using, and like it's 80% talking and like 10 or 15% stuff that resembles wrestling, and occasionally you get a good match, but like there's this, and they do this like safe work thing where somehow people get hurt more often than they do in places where they bump harder, and I don't know, I can't get into it. And the fact I just don't like Vince McMahon as a human being, like that doesn't help either. So made it easy for me to kind of swear off wrestling in the early 2000s for a while, and like we've sort of come back around to like there's competition in the business again. There's exciting stuff going on. Like I haven't watched a second of WWE content in like since I've maybe watched 1 hour or so worth of WWE programming since Mania this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
the only thing that I'll watch is WrestleMania because that's like the Super Bowl for people to just get together. I'm not there for the wrestling. I'm there for my friends. You know what I mean?
And Mania, honestly, Mania this year was actually
pretty long.
It was long, but it was pretty
long.
good. They hit the key moments at least. The Becky Lynch thing, and you got to see Seth beat Lesnar up before Seth ran his mouth on social media, and everybody hates him now in real life. But
It just exposed how immature he really is.
yeah, for sure. Considering that his Seth Rollins, the wrestler, like gets by almost completely on charisma. His in-ring work is pretty average. Like
I know he was good before, but they just
Well,
he's not bad. He doesn't work top guy level matches. He's got the charisma.
Career,
yeah. We'll never forgive him for killing Sting. Anyway, so right now there's probably about 4 shows or 4 companies at least that are really good alternatives to watching WWE. So you got AEW,
Impact,
MLW,
and Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor's in its death throes right now.
We'll throw New Japan over Ring of Honor.
But New Japan for sure, yeah.
New Japan.
I still think the best wrestling in the world is
Especially
happening in
since
New
they're going to be
Japan.
doing more the New Japan America.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to be very curious about because is it going to be consist of mainly New Japan people or New Japan people we haven't seen before, or is it going to be like
LA guys coming out of the dojo?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Hey, look, the LA Dojo
yeah.
kids, those young lions have been really, really impressive so far. Carl Fredericks is going to be a star. He's so good. And he's another guy that he worked the indies on the West Coast. We've been working the West Coast indies for the last couple of years before he got into the New Japan dojo. I think we'll see two more exchange. Like you have now they're sending. So New Japan's partnership with Ring of Honor at this point is pretty more or less dead with the New Japan America announcement, and I think that they're gonna. Sort of do like what they did with Narita, where they're going to send some of the young lions when they're ready to go on excursion, rather than going to Ring of Honor. They'll come to the LA dojo. And so like Narita and a bunch of the LA dojo young lions, they're already getting indie dates booked like around the LA area and stuff. So Narita's going to get to work the dirty American indies. That's going to be an experience for him compared to New Japan probably.
But we saw Nosawa, right? Was it SoCal or it was New Japan? No, New Wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't ref his match, but I was like, I know who you are. I'm not sure if anyone else knows who you are.
I'm still working on the English muffin.
Well, I wasn't a part of New Wave at that time.
Yeah. So
That was after I was told to leave.
Anyway.
Well, actually, they gave me an option and I chose to leave. My dignity held high.
Yes, I know. But that's what I'm trying to say is like the indies here, for the most part, will treat you right. And all I have to say is I'm very curious to because we're in the hotbed right now. Okay, it's been the 4th week, going on the 5th
of AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Yes, he loves to say the name.
Of what? AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite?
Yes, you do. So, but now if we fast forward a few more months or even a full year, we're gonna see who's gonna rise to the top. So it's just like who's gonna be able to survive, who's going to combine, who's going to drop off. I don't know, but right now, I mean, it's good to be a wrestling fan right now.
Absolutely,
it really is. I mean, see the Rock and Roll Express.
It has not been this good in like 20 years.
Yeah, that's really true. I thought that the 3rd episode of AEW Dynamite
on Wednesday nights.
Wednesday Night Dynamite was the best episode of any wrestling program in 20 years. The first hour especially was just like ridiculous. It started with that ridiculous Lucha Brothers Private Party match and just got better from there. Like,
that Cody Rhodes promo that led to freaking DDP, MJF, Dustin Rhodes all freaking going up to the skybox in the first order. That was perfect. With Jericho just going, I have a ticket.
Jericho's another guy, man. Everything that guy touches is gold, and like you can say that he's lost a step in the ring, which he has.
He has, but
and physically, his body's not all.
It's not what it was.
Yeah. But man, that dude still knows how to rock a microphone.
Yeah, just
man.
give him a microphone.
He knows how to, and he's like knows it's. This weird combination of he's getting heat, but people love him, which is that's a newer thing in wrestling. Like heels are cool.
Some can argue that Wednesday's episode was the weakest, but I actually just took it as build for the pay-per-view episode. Because they still gotta promote that thing.
Yeah,
I don't think I've heard that one sold out yet. Usually they're so, but what I heard was like, oh, look at Jericho's jacket and stuff, just like little things like that. You're like.
Yeah,
he gets himself over like nobody business.
That pumpkin jacket, that purple this past week, jacket. And like the week before that, he showed up in this like leather jacket that looked like a suit blazer with no shirt on underneath. That was like hot pink or whatever. It looked like literally Jericho looked like he was ready to like try to sell you 6 kilos of coke in a timeshare in Miami someplace. Like seriously, that was my reaction. I tweeted that at Naito's Mullet, by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter.
Naito's Mullet.
I tweeted that out. Like when I saw him live, I said, "Man, Jericho looks like he's ready to try to sell you like $156,000 worth of cocaine and a timeshare in Cocoa Beach someplace." But man, everything that dude's doing is so over right now, and like.
I do have to mention, like, he was when he commented on MJF, he's like, "The guy's wearing a scarf."
Yes, that was so good.
How do you be scared of a guy wearing a scarf?
That was so good. Self-awareness is a good thing. It was awesome. Yeah, so much good stuff happening right now, and like. Impact's doing good things right now.
They've really turned the corner.
They really have.
And it is refreshing. And the fact that they're pushing Tessa Blanchard to the freaking moon, I love.
She needs to be pushed anyway.
She does. They better work on getting her extended like right now. Oh. Otherwise, her contract's gonna expire. And I would hope she loves pro wrestling enough to not go to the Fed. But money talks. I'd love to see her in AEW. But
I don't know, because the first thing we try to do is break her and Daga up.
Yeah.
I like those two together.
What I want is I want, and Don Callis at Impact obviously has a relationship with the Elite. They're all his buddies. I want them to work out some kind of deal where through the AAA agreement we can get some Impact talent working AEW matches. I want to see Brian Cage work AEW shows and test. Like, what would you? That would be a showstopper. If Tessa shows
I would like to see Brian Cage versus Hangman Page.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be a crazy match.
What would you call it? What would you call it? Come on, I know it's in there. Okay, we'll come back to you. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, this is what Japan is actually very good at, because when they do the Super J Cup, they bring
Cage?
Huh?
Hanging Cage?
No, come back to you. Anyway, so they bring in wrestlers from other promotions.
They just looked at me like with the look of disappointment.
You know what I'm saying?
Failed.
And the crossover is what brings people in, because they make your dream matches, and I'm saying there's enough promotions out there to do the cross promotion thing. It's Worlds Collide again. You really need to do something like that, because that's how you bring all of the fans together.
Well, Impact has been really good lately about sharing talent and all that with other companies. I mean,
I'm talking about a big event. People will actually pay $50 to watch on pay-per-view, or spend money to go to the event, because when you get all that cool talent, you get to handpick who's good from each promotion and have them all in one building.
I would like to hear Don Callis and Tony Schiavone and JR on commentary.
That would be interesting.
That'd be pretty interesting.
But you got Excalibur so good, you can't leave him out.
He's good.
Oh yeah. No, I could easily leave him out for Don Callis.
I felt like this past week's Wednesday Night Dynamite episode, I felt like they kind of towed the sports entertainment line a little too much. For my taste, anyway, there was just a lot of non-wrestling segments, whereas seemingly, anyways, disproportionate to the first 3 weeks. Like, I especially episode 3, I thought was the best so far. Like, I was just like, holy shit, they just keep getting better and better. And then it made this past week seem like a letdown for me, just because of the level that they were able to achieve the first 3 weeks. And they're not all going to be great, right? Like,
so I'm gonna have to say that we as people who've been in the business and have followed business and really do their background checks on a lot of
Kicked in the face by the business.
Yes. So, but there are the casual fans who want to see the storytelling. They want to see the vignettes. I don't want over the top stupid, like breaks where I'm like, okay, I went to the bathroom, I came back, this shit is still on. You know what I mean? I don't want any of that. So I really hope they, like I said, a balance of just good comedy. Like, okay, so I'm with Vince. When I first saw Orange Cassidy, yeah, see, there you go. See, he doesn't like it. I think it's hilarious.
I
love it. I love it, but
I understand people love it. It's just not for me.
So I'm just trying to say is like, see, that's enough character, enough comedy for me to sustain me, and then back to the action. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
then again, I've also seen freaking Ken Shamrock take Joey Ryan's nut spot today.
I was going to say, there's a lot of
Steiner freaking wrestle Orange Cassidy and do his.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that. Like Joey Ryan's dick gimmick is the first, right? That and Orange Cassidy, those are the things people who are the more traditionalist wrestling fans get their feathers ruffled about, seemingly, and like. But that stuff's, it's over.
No,
why would you stop doing it if it's over?
I understand. I understand it's over and it's about the work and making sure the crowd was happy.
Yeah.
Again, I was told tell a story.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's for some people. It's not for me. But I understand that. But AEW does a good thing where it gives you a little bit of everything. You'll get Cody doing the old school wrestling. You'll get the Bucks and freaking Kenny Omega doing the PWG style matches. Right down to the referee. Hey Rick, what's up if you're listening to this? Love you, buddy. I've actually had Rick do a bunch of my matches, so.
Oh, nice, yeah. So,
no, it's a great time. Because especially with AEW, because you get a bit of everything. People bring their different styles, bring their influences and inspirations with them. It's not. You're not eating cornflakes. That's WWE. You don't get the analogy, people. It's there. It's constant. You know what you're getting. AEW is a suicide of cereal.
Suicide cereal.
I would honestly,
you mix up everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm gonna throw in some Lucky Charms. I'm gonna throw in some.
I say that for my soda, suicide soda.
I would.
Well, I'm doing a cereal analogy here. Thank you very much.
I would say WWE is an extremely old, stale box of cornflakes at best.
Yeah.
So cornflakes taste good sometimes when you're in the mood.
The one where you have to kind of dust off the box.
Exactly.
What are your opinions on NXT though?
So,
This is confliction.
Everybody seems to have NXT be the exception.
So here's the thing. I don't make the exception for NXT anymore.
Okay.
I did for a long time, and then like this, they had the stuff go down with the T-shirt for Jordan Miles ACH, and like and rumors that like now those workers are all on national TV every week now, and Vince won't give them their main roster raise. Their TV raise. It's supposed to be you're on TV, you get this raise, and he's basically screwing all of that talent. So they're still showing out. My problem is, I feel like back to the beginning of this year, you could start to see the fingerprints of sort of like traces of main roster stuff sort of bleeding into NXT earlier this year.
You could feel the fingers.
You could sort of feel it. Yeah, you could see like you could see that it wasn't Triple H, just Triple H running the show anymore. And that all that said, I'm also not of the Triple H is the savior ilk either. He's essentially a part of the McMahon family by extension. Like he's a little better than Vince, but he's not.
Yeah,
the guy's not the savior of pro wrestling. Let's be real.
He's the savior of WWE. At some point.
He's in charge of their only sort of redeeming product right now. So that's But so I like a lot of the workers in NXT, but I feel like they've gotten in 2019 especially, they've kind of gotten away from like really meaningful storytelling. There hasn't been a lot of really meaningful stories told in NXT. Like the hallmarks of the WWE, like if you're an ex-MMA fighter, if you're a blonde fitness model that looks like Barbie, if you're a guy that's over 6'4" and has mediocre wrestling skills, you're automatically going to get a push.
I never got an audition. Just saying. My mediocreness, I could have been somebody.
So, like, you're starting to see that stuff, which has been a hallmark of the main roster for a long time, creep into NXT now. Like, sort of the last straw for me was, so like Shayna Baszler is the NXT Women's Champ, right? Mm-hmm. She's worked the Indies before. She's the only one of the four horsemen of MMA that's actually good at pro wrestling. Rousey's terrible. The other two girls are awful.
I think Rousey could be led with a good match. I think she was talented enough to do that.
She's got to learn how to sell better.
Oh, she can't sell for sure.
Yeah. But anyway,
she's competent in the ring. She's not freaking Lawrence Taylor in there.
No, for sure. So back to Baszler, like she's good, right? But if you look, her MMA record was extremely mediocre. Like she was not an MM. Like at least Rousey has a reputation as a world beater. Baszler and those other two girls, Duke and Shafir, like none of them were even good in MMA. So you're taking someone who is a mediocre MMA fighter and you're saying no one in pro wrestling can beat her, and you have Io Shirai lose clean to her twice. At that point, I was just like, okay, I think I'm done with this. Like Io Shirai is probably the best female wrestler in the whole world, arguably, definitely top 3, right? And like, what do you do? I mean, that's a whole other subject for another time. WWE doesn't book international talent well anyways.
No, I mean, look at Nakamura.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
They are absolutely terrible with international talent, whether it be freaking Nakamura or Andrade.
Yeah, how do you screw Andrade up? Like, that's why I'm like, oh god, people are talking about Roosh and Dragon Lee, they're free agents now, and I'm like, oh, please don't go to the Fed. They're gonna, like, the only two Latinos that have ever gotten booked well in the Fed are Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio.
Even then, when Mysterio was champion, they buried him.
Yeah.
They buried
it's bad.
him. And even then, Eddie didn't really get the love until like the last year of his life.
Yeah.
Like that's when he became the myth, Eddie Guerrero. It wasn't even, he was still a grinder until then.
Yep.
Because when he was champion, that's when all the pressure was on him. That's when his matches got a little bit lower because that took a toll on him being the champion. I love Eddie with all my heart.
Oh, he did it.
He was not built to be the champion in that era because every little thing he took personally. And that's when he got bigger, and that's when you could see the zits on his back again, and that's when you could see all that. Because he's like, I gotta get big. To get Gates down like freaking 1,500 from last time or whatever. It's not. He took all that on himself, dude, and I think that's what really freaking damaged him more.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing with we see the current state of it is you see guys who are just plain dudes. They're not like juiced out of their minds. Although I am seeing MJF probably on the juice a little bit. I'm like, dude, don't do that. You don't need that.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that. So, but that's what I'm saying. With Joey Janela and all these other guys, I'm like, oh my gosh, like some dude could just walk off the street and just, like train and it'd be okay as long as he's a good wrestler. You know what I'm saying? And so the other thing with the Evil Uno, like, a lot of people complain about how fat he is and all this. I'm like, dude, he moves good. He was good.
No, he's good.
And I'm like, I've seen. Wait, look at Abdul the Butcher. Come on.
So the thing, I think the issue with the Dark Order guys is like they haven't done any. They need to do like some vignettes so that people understand what that gimmick is supposed to be. That's the biggest disconnect that I've encountered on social media with wrestling fans. Anyways, is people don't know what the hell they're supposed to be. What are they supposed to be? People, the default answer is spooky perverts. What the fuck are spooky perverts? Like, what does that mean exactly? Can please tell us more? Like, I want a story that I can invest in and say, okay, I like these guys. Instead, they've just kind of thrown them out there, and like they're good in ring. Obviously, they're talented. Super Smash Brothers before they sort of disappeared for a while. Like they tore shit up.
Well, hopefully now that they got the tag team tournament settled, they can start pushing the tag teams as individuals. Yeah. If you know what I mean, like you can get into more vignettes with Private Party or the Dark Order and so on and so forth because that's settled now. Yeah. You got your champions. You got your little bit of the bubbly. Look at Chris Jericho. So God, I love you.
I'm interested
Rio
to know what did you guys think of that the tag team tournament final and the booking outcome of that?
With the most devastating move in professional wrestling package.
Yes.
I don't mind the roll up. That's fine.
No, I don't mind it either.
Do you think that the belt should have went over to SCU, or you think it should have went to Lucha Libre?
So here's my biggest problem, right? So you're the part of this is a sort of an abundance of wealth problem. Like the AEW has the best tag team division in the universe.
Oh yeah.
Nobody can touch that, right? So you have my opinion. Lucha Brothers are the best tag team on the planet right now. So I wouldn't. If you give me one tag team for a big match, I'm taking them. So Bucks are close. I like the Bucks a lot, but I'm.
I think the reason why they didn't win is because in the start of the fall of a lot of promotions is the owner makes himself champion.
Right.
So I think this is why they're not, champions and stuff.
Well, so and I get that with the Bucks, and I think that was good. And they also made stars out of Private Party.
Oh yeah.
Like with that
stars.
Private Party got over huge.
Made stars.
Yeah. That's what you do. My issue with. So there was so much other non-wrestling stuff on the show, and then we got a 10-minute tag team title match at the end. That felt a little rushed. Like the match itself was good. My problem is Lucha Brothers are your top tag team. I love SCU. Right? I love those guys. I love Scorpio. I love Frankie Kazarian. I love CD. My buddy Garrett, who I hang out with in LA, is friends with CD. Like, I have nothing bad to say about any of those guys. They're awesome. But realistically, they're like the 5th or 6th best tag team in AEW, right? Like, so you just made your top tag team look like nerds to put your buddies over. Which, again, I have no issue with SCU. They're great. I'm happy for them. Like, it's a cool moment for them, right? So, but you could have made your best tag team your inaugural champs. I'm sure that feud's not over. There's going to be a build around. They haven't announced a tag team match for Full Gear next weekend yet. So for all we know, Being the Elite tomorrow.
You got the Bucks versus.
But no title defense for SCU is what I meant. Yeah, but there's that match is going to be great. The Bucks and LAX, like those guys can't call them LAX anymore. They'll always be LAX to me. But
see, they're not. They were never LAX to me though.
You're talking about Hernandez and
Homicide.
Yeah. Fair. That's totally fair.
I freaking love that group.
Oh, I love
And then when they had a freaking, god damn it, Shelly Martinez with them.
Yeah. that was to me the LAX I remember, and I think that's just.
I even have the Homicide figure, and I was like, "Where's the Hernandez figure? When are they coming up?" And they stopped making the fucking toys.
I saw Homicide and Eddie Kingston work at PCW Ultra just a couple weekends ago. It's always a treat. Although Homicide was in a dog collar match, which is like one of the most boring stipulations ever. But getting to see Eddie Kingston wrestle Jacob Fatu in an I Quit match was pretty.
Just seeing Eddie Kingston on the freaking West Coast is a treat, man.
Pretty cool. So I was bummed he didn't cut a promo at all. And I was like, really? You're going to have Eddie Kingston on your show and he's not going to cut a promo? He's like one of the best in the business at that. But,
wow.
But dude, him and Homicide both, nuclear heat. Like within seconds had the whole crowd chanting, "Fuck New York, fuck New York." Like it was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, nuclear heat. Just good stuff.
That's good.
No, I can understand, like, back to the original topic of the Lucha Bros.
Yeah.
I totally think they're the best tag team, and part of me thinks they should have won. My brownness will not let me say they should have lost. They should have lost. But as a SoCal boy, I'm glad it was SCU. And plus, SCU can work with all the other talent more right now than probably...
That's fair.
Goddamn Lucha Bros.
So the other thing too, I had a chat with another friend who mentioned, and this kind of makes sense. One of the reasons it may have gone down like that is so. AAA in Mexico and AEW are both trying to get the Lucha Brothers locked in exclusively, where they work AAA only in Mexico, AEW only in the U.S., and that hasn't happened yet. They're still working.
I really doubt that
per
Phoenix and
no, those guys, their work rate is insane. Those guys are on a plane heading someplace for another show.
Yeah.
Like at any
but I
moment.
doubt they're going to let themselves get locked into AAA again, ever.
Fair, but AAA is doing a good job of pushing them as a tag team for sure.
Yeah. No, and I understand Conan's a booker again in AAA, but just because they had such a bad experience when they were trying to get other shows. I mean, hell, I was on shows where they were supposed to show up and then AAA pulled them at the last minute.
Yeah, AAA actually pulled the Lucha Brothers were supposed to work that PCW show. AAA actually, because Fenix's match with Kenny was the next day in Mexico, and literally, like, both brothers are posting excited about the show just a few hours before, and AAA pulled them off.
Yeah.
Like, just crap. There's so many people, like kids in Penta costumes, waiting for the meet and greet, and just like, it was a drag for sure. And then so you ended up with the Australian or the Natural Classics, the Australian tag team that the Lucha Brothers were supposed to wrestle, ended up like local enhancement talent for indies. Like that, they pulled a couple people from like the scramble match or something like that and threw them together as a tag team, and they did a job for the Natural Classics, and that was it.
Yeah, I hate it with that.
Yeah. Honestly, Lucha Bros need to just kind of be doing what they're doing and be free. Like, you could, hey, look, Phoenix is in freaking CMLL this week. Oh, look, he's doing AAA next week. Oh, look, he's in freaking...
They haven't worked CMLL in a long time.
I know, but I think that's where they're best served right now, because they just have so much going for them right now.
I appreciate that I appreciate the work rate.
They need the Parker deal. There we go.
Right? Yeah.
Just you tell me, you just pay me. I'll show up wherever the hell I want to.
Speaking of Parka, man, that match with Jacob Fatu from the MLW pay-per-view last night, highly recommend.
Oh, that Bloodfest?
They beat the shit out of each other. It was wonderful.
Now, if I'm right, that's Rikishi's kid, right?
Fatu?
Yeah, Jacob
Yeah. Super. He is one part of. He and Yosef Samael are Contra unit in MLW, but they're on the West Coast. They're known as War Beast, and they've been the PCW tag team champs for 900 days or something like that without losing their titles. Super solid workers. I'm glad to see those guys getting some eyes on them.
All right, so we're kind of getting a little late into it, but I'm going to give you a minute. I'm going to let you think about this for a sec. Who are 3 up-and-coming talents that you think are going to be big? And give me 3 influences and inspirations. But first, I got a question for Virgil while you think about that.
All right.
Are we going to Fist this weekend or on Thursday? It's in the Chew with Psychosis.
Oh, on Thursday?
They run on Thursdays for some ungodly reason.
Oh, I don't know, man. I know you can go. Where are they? Where are they?
I don't know, some industrial.
Okay, at Fist.
Yeah. You're in Chula Vista anyways.
That's true.
That's right. Fist is running that big show down there this week.
But what's
It's
the
Idol versus Psychosis.
what's this place at?
Well, I'll send you the flyer.
Okay. All right. I'll think about it. I'll see what happens. Okay. All right. So.
More importantly, it's Psychosis.
I know.
Psychosis is my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And he saved. He's a hero because he saved a life. And Vince is a hero because he saved his mom's life.
Damn right I did.
So you need to get the Justice
I
League.
bitch like the devil.
So all right. So
So 3 up and coming talents that you think might hit in the next
Guys that are on the indies now, or
either or that are coming up on the main or coming up on the indies.
Okay, so
Just throw some names.
one guy who's a star now. It depends on what you think of rumors. Well, the first name I'm going to throw out there is Jake Atlas. If you're a SoCal wrestling fan,
Oh, yeah,
you're
I know
familiar
Jake
with
Atlas.
him. He's a great worker. The
been annoying
rumor
with Jake
is
Atlas.
there's a rumor that he's going to be at the Performance Center in 2020. I really, really hope that's not true because that is a guy who's not going to get to be himself in the Fed.
He's just going to get lost in the shuffle if he goes there, and that's the God's honest.
I feel like he would be so much better served in AEW or in Impact even. Like
I could see him in Impact.
he fits. AEW has is big on the inclusion thing, so I think he would fit very, very well in their plan, and like he can work with anybody on that roster, male or female. Like he's really, really good. So I think Jake, if he doesn't go to the Fed, I think Jake's going to be a big star. I think if he goes to the Fed, he ends up buried like everybody else. They've got so much talent they don't know what to do with already. So there's one. So I'm going to say. So AEW's women's division has kind of been under the radar, like, and they did make some big additions this past week. They signed Shauna, who took on Hikaru Shida on Dynamite this past week.
That was a good match. I think they went a little long though.
I thought it was a good match, and I liked that she wasn't just enhancement talent. They signed her for 3 years, so she was really, really good. And Mercedes Martinez, that's a great signing. I don't know how she was not signed to a pro wrestling company before this, a big pro wrestling company before this, and Big Swole. So they've got all 3 of those ladies. But, excuse me, I think Shida is going to be a big star. I don't know if you guys have seen any of that Makai stuff she does over in Japan. It's like a combination of pro wrestling and acting and martial arts and stuff. It's super, super cool. Like she's really athletic. She can do some really, really cool stuff. So I think she's got a really bright future ahead of her. Other guy who I think that we're going to see, and you guys are, I'm sure, familiar with, who I think we're going to see big things from, who I think will pop up someplace in 2020 sometime, is Douglas James, obviously.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
He's had a big 2019
Go
season.
DJ, go. Yeah.
Came back from injury. He's gotten some Impact bookings, so he's been on a couple of their TV tapings that haven't aired yet. So that'll be cool for him. He's not contracted with Impact as far as I know yet, but MLW is another place too. They have a good Court Bauer's doing good things there.
I love that they're pushing Davey Boy Smith Jr.
He's much more impressive there than he was in Killer Elite Squad.
Yeah, or in his brief run in WWE.
Yeah.
He's found himself.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He's found
he's
himself.
been real, real good. So anyway,
His combined the power and MMA that he's doing now, I'm enjoying that a lot. Especially if you saw him in the Bloodsport. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Him versus Killer Cross.
Killer Cross, that match.
God,
Oh, God.
Damn. They're slapping the shit. So he's just going, oh,
Yeah.
Alright.
That was good
And
stuff. So
3
those are my 3.
All right, and 3 influences and inspirations.
Influences and inspirations, like my favorites.
Yeah.
So Penta is my favorite wrestler, period. So I named my dog after him. Bought a match-worn mask from him that I saw him wrestle in. Like I'm just I love the character.
Such a fucking cool guy too.
Cool guy.
I've hung out with him and his brother.
Yeah.
He sells merch to fans direct through his Instagram, and you PM him, and he'll sit there and bullshit with you. Like his English isn't awesome, but like he'll sit there and bullshit with you. Like
His
it's
English
super
is
cool.
getting better. Because he's actually listened to Conan and is like, dude, you need to learn English. And and Phoenix is actually, English is better than Penta.
It is.
Yeah,
Phoenix speaks good English. Pretty good
And
English,
I think right now that's another reason why they didn't, because they're not fluent in English. And honestly, the translation, you have to have the Spanish speaker break it down for them, then that, and even then there's still a little bit of crossword.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah, they might need a manager-ish type of person, but
Yeah.
don't let it be Conan. I don't want to be Conan.
So yeah, that's such a WWE thing though.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they can tell a story in the ring and stand on their own. I think maybe improve their English a little bit, but I actually maybe because I'm also a nerd too. Like I'm a huge fan, and like I pop when they cut promos in Spanish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, and the tagline and everything.
They don't really need to learn English for the promo,
Right.
just because they're good at selling the emotion of the promo.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
So
to communicate with the worker,
Yeah.
you need it.
fair.
And also, to some of the mainstream fans, they're like, oh, they're the ones who are going to complain.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, again, there's the extreme fan wrestlers, wrestling fans, and then you have just the mainstream people you need to like be able to branch out to everyone with. So I mean that's the only reason, and that's usually traditionally when you have a big dude and whatever like that, you need to have a mouthpiece, because if he's not a good promo, you're gonna put people to sleep. So it's that's the only reason, and that's just been canon for as long as we've been.
Sure.
All right.
But
So we got Penta.
that's
So number 2, Tetsuya Naito, my favorite wrestler in Japan. Should have won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom 12. Thanks, Ghetto. It looks like they might finally pull the trigger on Naito now, and I'm gonna say, if I'm a clown for getting worked and getting sucked into this than I am, then so be it. Like it's pro wrestling, we all get worked sometimes, but Naito is gonna walk out of the Tokyo Dome with both belts. I think it's time. It's gonna happen. New Japan is doing 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome for the first time ever. They need their biggest story payoff to make that work, and that's Naito. Like people have been waiting 6 years for that story to come to completion. He's not Tranquillo Naito anymore. He's attacking interviewers backstage and like not being very Asenayo. So I love the character. I love the story. I feel like anybody who's ever felt like they worked their ass off and didn't get their just due can relate to that.
So you
that
mean
story.
98% of the WWE roster?
Can really relate to that story. He's almost, it's kind of Steve Austin-ish in a way, and kind of Daniel Bryan-ish in a way, because he's so over with the fans, and Ghetto doesn't want to put him over. Ghetto doesn't like him for whatever reason. He doesn't want him to go over, but like the fans are, it's like the Yes Movement, but in Japan kind of, and like, so anyway, I can't wait for that to happen. I love his moveset. Destino is one of the coolest finishers, coolest looking finishers around. So I'm a huge Naito fan. I will always believe, although if he doesn't walk out of the dome with that belt, saying now that he said he wants to retire in the next 3 years because his body's breaking down, it's probably never going to happen.
Destino freaking probably destroying his knees.
His knees are,
Not to mention the Starship, the press.
the Stardust press.
Thank you. I was about to say the Stardust pain. I was
It
like,
would
what the
be.
hell?
Wouldn't it be fitting if Naito beats Jay White for the Intercontinental title on the first night of Wrestle Kingdom, and then faces Okada and beats Okada with the Stardust Press. A nice little throwback to the Stardust Genius, like kind of full circle. So, and then number 3, I'm gonna go with Tessa Blanchard. I have so many favorites and so many inspirations in pro wrestling that it's so hard for me to sit there and pick just 3. The top 2 are easy.
But yeah, we've kind of found that out. Like usually you got like your couple that you're like dead set, but then when you get like into the weeds, you're like
there's just so many workers on
it. And it changes.
It does for sure.
A good match, a good promo, and you're like, that's my favorite.
Totally. Juice Robinson, one of those guys. I was never a big Juice Robinson fan. Last year in last summer's G1, not the one that just ended, he cut that promo. Where Jay White broke his hand. I saw him cut that backstage promo on Jay White, like prior to their match for the U.S. Title, and I instantly was like, how can you not love this guy? How can you see somebody cut a promo like that, like just genuine emotion like that, and not be a fan? He's another guy that, like, I feel like...
Yeah, you're going to come up with a lot of them.
But anyway, I'm going to go with Tessa, though. Tessa right now is my favorite female worker in the world, one of my favorite workers in the world, period. She's just so good, man. She has in spades.
You know what? She reminds me of cheerleader Melissa because she wrestles like a man.
She does.
That'd be my dream match.
But she's better.
That would be my female.
She has more charisma.
Dream match is Tessa against cheerleader Melissa. That'd be awesome.
That would have been cool. That could have. The funny thing, Tessa tried out for Lucha Underground, and they decided they didn't want her on the show. You could have had Tessa and cheerleader Melissa on Lucha Underground as Mariposa, right? Like, you could have happened. And still could happen in Shimmer or someplace like that, right? Rise.
Wow.
So, yeah, wow. Well, wow, too. Is cheerleader Melissa working on WoW?
No, but how hard could it be?
Yeah, you can just get her.
Very true. Yeah. So, anyway, so there's my 3.
She's signed anywhere major. Let's be honest.
Yeah, this is true.
All right, so we've gone long. Thank you for sticking with us. But it's nice to have somebody who's passionate about something like this. So thank you, Jeremy, for coming. Dude, we appreciate you. You're welcome back here anytime. Maybe next time we can talk a little tech with Sergio, so he can actually have something to say. Such an occasional backhanded compliment, Sergio. Like and follow Producer Virgil's band Still Ill, sign your tribute to Smiths and Morris. You can find them on StillIll.net, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Sergio Sanchez next to Jurassic Park. You can leave him alone. He's a cranky old man. You can find Jeremy at Naito's Mullet and on Twitters at Naito's Mullet. I mean, how hard is that? Thanks for stopping by. I'll get the check.